What if the moments we thought were simply scripted romance were actually the sparks of something real? What if the electricity that lit up the screen was never just acting at all, but a chemistry so unmistakable, so uncontainable, that even years later it continues to haunt an entire generation of viewers? This is the question that returns every time fans revisit Meteor Garden, a series that was supposed to be just another teen drama, but instead became a cultural event, a shared emotional memory, a phenomenon that refused to fade with time. And at the heart of this phenomenon stood two people, Wang and Shen Yue, two young actors thrown into the global spotlight who somehow created scenes so electric, so emotionally precise, that even now viewers cannot tell where the characters ended and the actors began. Today, we revisit the most unforgettable moments of that story, the scenes that shaped a generation, the scenes that fans still dissect, still argue about, still rewatch in silence at midnight. And we ask the question no one has dared to answer. Was the magic simply the script, or something deeper? The first spark, the accidental collision that changed everything. It was one of the simplest scenes in the entire series. A moment so ordinary, so quiet, that nobody expected it to become iconic. A hallway, a sudden turn, a collision between two characters who could not have been more opposite. But what happened in that split second still resurfaces in fan discussions years later. Something in Dylan's expression, something in Shen Yue's startled breath, something raw, something unscripted, something that felt like watching two real people collide, not two fictional characters. It was the moment fans insist was the beginning of everything. The instant when the audience felt a connection that neither actor could hide, even if they wanted to. And from that point on, their story was no longer just a story. It was a phenomenon. The rooftop scene, when silence spoke louder than dialogue. Among all the moments in Meteor Garden, there is one scene that fans return to more than any other. The rooftop. The empty sky. The city stretching out beneath them, quiet and impossibly vast. It wasn't the dialogue that made the scene unforgettable. It was the silence. The way Dylan looked at her, as if seeing her for the first time. The way Shen Yue didn't speak, didn't smile, didn't even move, but somehow told an entire emotional history through her stillness. It was cinematic. It was intimate. It was the kind of moment that actors cannot fake unless something inside them understands it deeply. Fans still describe it as the turning point, the moment that made them believe in the story, in the characters, in the emotions between them. Some describe it as a quiet confession without words. Others say it was the beginning of a heartbreak that would last the entire series. But all agree on one thing: that scene was lightning trapped in a single frame. The rain scene, when everything finally broke. If Meteor Garden had electricity, then the rain scene was its lightning strike. The storm, the shouting, the emotional unraveling of two characters who had spent an entire season hiding their feelings behind pride, stubbornness, and misunderstanding. Water cascading down their faces, voices cracking, eyes burning with everything unsaid. It was messy, emotional, overwhelming, yet impossibly real. And for many fans, it became the scene that defined the entire drama. It wasn't just the argument. It wasn't just the heartbreak. It was the vulnerability. Dylan's voice shaking. Shen Yue's tears mixing with the rain. Two people fighting not because they hated each other, but because they cared too much. In that moment, audiences felt as though they were watching two hearts crack open at the same time. It was passion. It was pain. It was the rawness that made Meteor Garden impossible to forget. The car scene, where acting became emotion. Few scenes have been analyzed, rewatched, and dissected as intensely as the infamous car scene. Dylan's character, for once, stripped of arrogance. Shen Yue's character, torn between fear and longing. Fans noticed details the actors probably didn't even realize they were giving. The trembling of her hands. The way his breathing changed. The crack in his voice when he whispered her name. The way she blinked too quickly, as if holding back tears that the script never asked her to shed. This was the essence of Meteor Garden's power. Those tiny, fragile details that could not be rehearsed. The car scene became a symbol, a moment when acting blurred into emotion so convincingly that fans still argue about what was scripted and what was not. The hug that changed the internet. Some scenes do not need dialogue, conflict, or dramatic tension. Sometimes, all it takes is a hug. But this hug, the one fans call the hug that stopped time, became something else entirely. Not because of how long it lasted. Not because of the music in the background. Not because of the storyline. But because of the way Dylan held her. Not loosely. Not casually. But with a kind of protectiveness that transcended acting. And the way Shen Yue leaned into him, as though she belonged there. It sparked debates across social media. Was it acting? Was it instinct? Was it something they didn't expect but didn't resist? Years later, fans still return to it, still debate it, still feel its emotional pull. Fans' reactions, the internet's eternal love story. The global audience did not simply watch these scenes. They claimed them. They immortalized them. Forums exploded. Fan edits reached millions. Comment sections turned into emotional confessionals. People shared how the scenes brought them comfort, hope, nostalgia, or even heartbreak. How Dylan and Shen Yue created a version of romance that felt both larger than life and painfully real. Even now, fans ask, why does it still feel so powerful? Why, after all these years, does the chemistry still feel alive? Why do these scenes still hit harder than anything modern dramas have produced? Perhaps because Meteor Garden wasn't just a show. It was a memory, a moment in pop culture that froze in time, a shared heartbeat for millions of viewers. And every time fans revisit it, that heartbeat returns. The final question that still echoes today. So we return to the question that started this journey. Was it simply brilliant acting, or a connection that neither could fully hide? A spark created for the camera, or something that lived off-screen, quietly, mysteriously, maybe even unintentionally? The truth may never be spoken. It doesn't need to be. Because for fans, Meteor Garden will always be more than fiction. It will always be the drama that defined an era, united strangers, and created a love story that refuses to fade. A story told not just through scripted lines, but through glances, silences, breathless pauses, and the unmistakable electricity between two people who changed the meaning of chemistry on screen. Yet even after revisiting every iconic moment, one truth remains impossible to ignore. Meteor Garden did not become legendary by accident. It became legendary because of what Dylan and Shen Yue created between the lines. Moments so subtle, so emotionally sharp, that they linger long after the episode ends. And as fans return to those scenes today, something remarkable happens. The feelings come back just as vividly as before. The tension feels just as electric. The glances feel just as loaded. The chemistry feels just as alive. It is almost as if time has no power over the story. Because the truth is, Meteor Garden wasn't just performed. It was felt. Deeply. Quietly. Unforgettably. And perhaps that is why, even now, the world keeps coming back, searching for that spark, that heartbeat, that unspoken connection that Dylan and Shen Yue captured so effortlessly. A reminder of the drama that didn't just entertain. It lived inside people. It shaped how they understood first love, conflict, vulnerability, and the raw, trembling beauty of emotions we rarely admit out loud. And that is why, years later, Meteor Garden still feels like a memory rather than a show. A story that refuses to fade because it was never just on screen. It was imprinted on the audience who lived it alongside them.